are more than 100 unique styles of beer, each with their own set of ingredients, process, guidelines, history, and experience. If you're a beer lover, an industry leader, or somewhere in between, a better knowledge of beer style will improve your life and your work.
Welcome to A Sense of Beer Style, essential beer style training for those who want to lead in food and beverage. I'm Julia Herz.
And I'm Jeremy Storton.
We're advanced Cicerones, beer judges, home brewers, and we're excited to guide you through the vast and wonderful world of beer styles.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sense of Beer Style podcast. Thank you for listening to us again. Today, we're going to talk about the Italian Grape Ale as part of the local beer styles. If you've got your guidelines in front of you, it's usually at the end. But this episode is going to be a little bit different, and Julia will add her take on this too. And this is going to be a little bit shorter episode because we have Italian Grape Ale that we're going to talk about in this episode, but we have another Stylecast that talks about the Grape Ale that is kind of an offshoot of this. And there's so much overlap that we can literally say, go back and listen to our Grape Ale Stylecast within the fruit beer category. But there are a few differences. But the biggest thing is, why are there differences? Why do they have both of these in here? And from what I can tell, is basically that this is intended to be more for, remember the BJCP guidelines are for homebrew competitions. So this is meant to be for homebrew competitions in Italy. This is meant to be more of like the local grape ale version, as opposed to the general grape ale version that a lot of craft brewers are starting to play around with. And so that is the biggest difference that I can see here. The commercial examples are equally referenced. The ingredients are equally referenced. The appearance, the aroma, the taste, and even the mouthfeel is all going to be nearly identical to our grape ale Stylecast. But we felt we wanted to just kind of tap our foot on this and just kind of address why there's an Italian grape ale and not just kind of merge them together. What do you want to add to this, Julia?
I think it's a fun one. And when BJCP does update the style guidelines again, and certainly they don't update every year, 2015 was the previous update from then now. What we go through, Jeremy and I cover for you in Sense of Beer Style, the 2021 guidelines. So many years in between. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of resolve this, right? And so if this style, and I'm definitely seeing them not in a prolific fashion, but in homebrew competitions, and I certainly judge a lot, I'm seeing these, right? They are getting play. And this is a style that the guidelines talk about was created in 2006, 2007 by Birrifico barley brewery in Italy. And so this style certainly has been around, and it's maybe going to continue to emerge, or it might fizzle out and go to the wayside. And then who knows what that means for the BJCP circa 2026 guidelines or whatever happens. So I would just add that note. And I think the point of this is really not just having the ingredients be specific to Italy too, right? The guidelines talk about the use of continental hops, right? And I'm not knowing a lot of the hops that would be showcased from Italy. German or English is what is commonly used, right? And so you're using other countries' specific ingredients. The yeast, I don't know that it's known for. It's known, frankly, for a neutral character yeast. So I'm not familiar with many Italian grape ale yeasts that are being used. So we'll see where this goes. Very refreshing style, lots of ranges. Jeremy will go over the vitals. I'll toss that one to you. And there's a chance for many different expressions of this style too. I think that's the last important note to put under your belts. It'd be like saying you've had beer because you've drinking one beer. You've had wine because you've drinking one wine. Well, this style doesn't say what type of grapes you have to use, right? This style doesn't say what bitterness it needs to land on, when the vitals for bitterness are 6 international bitterness units to 30. Like, there's just one example of a spectrum, and the alcohol range is very broad. So lots of options for this one, and one example is not all examples. That I want to make the point.
Yeah. And frankly, I take especially all of these local styles within the X category within the BJCP styles is really, I feel like all the people at the BJCP are saying, hey, I want to hook you up. keep an eye on these styles. These are emerging styles, and these could become something really cool. We've already seen the Italian Grape Ale, which was in the local styles in the last style guidelines from 2015. It's now its own style, and I don't see any change. It's not super prolific, but I'm seeing them more and more and more, and it's really cool. So these styles are just really like a hey, just so you know. So hey, just so you know, let's talk about the vital stats. Between the Italian version of the style versus the general version of the style, there's a little bit more. There's a little bit of variance there, particularly within the Italian Grape Ale. The ABV has a wider range. In the original, in the regular Grape Ale under the fruited beer category, the ABV is 6 to 8.5. This one, the Italian version, is 4.5 to 12. I'm not much of a betting man, but if I were, I would bet you a beer that might likely has something to do with in Italy, where it's predominantly a wine-centered culture, and wine tends to be in the order of 13 to 15%. What's a 12% grape ale? Granted, I'm certainly not going to drink 16 ounces all at once in a big Willie Becker glass, but the alcohol levels is something that they're used to. When we get into the IBUs for the original or the regular grape ale, we're at 10 to 30. This is almost identical. The Italian version is 6 to 30. So there is hop presence, but it's not hop dominated, if that makes sense, no matter which version we're looking at. I'm going to skip color because as soon as you add grapes to the mix or
Yeah,
any kind of
smart.
fruit, the color scale doesn't matter. The color scale is designed for malt. When you add something that's not malt to the beer, then as they say in Italy, forget about it.
And
Um,
Jeremy, to add on that point,
yeah,
I failed to mention ingredients that the guidelines say the grape content can represent up to 40% of the grist, which is the fermentable
yeah,
makeup. So the more you have of grapes, the more the color scale is just going to be off the charts and not have a standard, at least in beer measurement
yeah,
guidelines for SRM.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank you for adding that. The original gravities, with the Italian version, we have a wider range as we would expect because of it's related to the ABV. So the original gravity for Italian version is 1045 to 1.100. The regular grape ale is a narrower 1059 to 1075. And the final gravity for the regular one is 10.4 to 1013. So it can be fairly dry to have a little bit of body to it. The Italian version is almost identical, 10.5 to 10.15. We're right in the same spot. So it's not drastically different, but we can expect a wider range in alcohol between for the Italian grape ale in comparison. That's really stat wise, that's the biggest change. Anything else we want to say for this as far as glass or food pairings that we haven't already said before?
No, because you all, as sobs, not snobs, are aware that you're going to want to pick the glass based on the ABV level, based
Yes.
on the temperature that you want, how much volatilizing and carbonation do you want, and volatiles to go out of the glass based on the shape, all that. But I mean, treat it as it should be indicative as much of wine as beer. So with that, there might be some nuance that you want in the glass, a smaller glass that's more indicative of what you would drink wine out of. And yeah, I mean, have fun with it. And I love to try the same beer in two different glasses. And often you have a very fun game of discovery going on and start to notice things that you wouldn't have noticed had you were only drinking that same beverage out of the same glass.
And frankly, if you're having a beer like this, hopefully it's on a date night or a special event. Don't put it in a red party cup. Put it in something like a teku glass, a stem tulip, or something like that. Or you know what? Even a wine glass, a white wine glass to be specific, would be an amazing glass for most beers, but especially this one. So don't be afraid to dress it up. Let's make an event out of it. It's great.
Yeah, I would say honor those grapes from Italy, and yeah, do it right. But if you end up having no other choice, drink it out of the bottle or can. That's okay too.
Just get it to your lips. That's all we ask.
That's right.
Other than that, that's really all we have to say about the Italian Grape Ale, other than just keep an eye on it and go out and find it and enjoy it. It's really something special. So to that, I say cheers.
Cheers right back.
Thank you for listening to A Sense of Beer Style, the essential beer style training for those who want to lead in food and beverage. With Advanced Cicerones, me, Julia,
and me, Jeremy.
Tune into the next episode as we continue exploring the world of beer styles and what to make of them. We encourage you to listen to the prepisodes to build your foundation and better understand beer styles.
And before the next episode, I'd like to ask you to review the show and let us know what you'd like featured in upcoming episodes. Until next time, here's to you and your sense of beer style. Thank you for listening. Cheers.